So you guys know that I don't really participate in the whole Balance Council coalition thing. I never really liked it because it brings out the ugly side of the community, honestly. There's a lot of arguing that tends to go on and name calling and just nastiness across Reddit, YouTube, you name it. But what I'll normally do is put out a wish list or my own personal voting, and I'll share it with you guys in a video at the end of the month. I usually put it out intentionally 1 or 2 days before the end of the month, so I don't look like I'm trying to start something as far as a coalition, because I'm not. However, I decided, given last month, Ofir posts in my Discord every month kind of what they're looking to do, and I really liked what they did for August, and I feel like they need a little bit of support come September, because the system that they incorporate is more of a democratic approach that focuses on bringing up the forgotten cards and sort of balancing out the poor changes that other coalitions would have made over the past couple months. So yes, there will be some ping-pong votes, and that's a very popular term because, some people will overbuff something, we got to fix that. But at the end of the day, there are some other changes that are going to be in the showcase today that are actually pretty exciting. So what happened was they came to me with a survey of sort of the recommendations, and there was a pool of like 20 odd per each category, and we put out a poll, and about 250 players, they participated in that poll over the course of a week, and based on the selections that they made, this is what that video is on. So if you guys voted in that poll, this is you. I didn't have anything to do with this, and I was considering about doing my own updated version of this list, but I decided that this time around definitely I'm not going to. Maybe in the future I'll have the main list and like my perfected list with like 1 or 2 changes, but for now that's not going to be the case. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this sort of structure. Do you like it? Do you think it's going to work? Would you support it? And are you going to participate in next month's? Because I feel like if we can keep this going at least for another few months, we can probably get a lot more than 250 votes. So anyways, let's get into it here. Listen to me while I'm talking to you, man. I want to explain these changes and kind of look at it from, a very unbiased approach. I know it's going to be very easy just to skim the page and write a comment, but let's go through it together, okay? So number one, you guys chose to increase the power of Forktail. I put out a Kelly deck a few days ago, and I thought Forktail was actually very clutch. So if you want to see some gameplay of Forktail in a low unit monster deck, it actually does very well. However, 4 power is kind of hurting, and we need to have a board state that supports it. So it's very niche to Kelly, low unit Death Wish, maybe Madoc, things like that. But I think there's a place for it in the game, and it even plays into like the beast category. So you can kind of do like tall beasts but low unit beasts and play into that whole like Ada Striga type situation too. So I like Forktail at 5. I think that's a really fair change, and it's not going to do anything bad to the game. It's just going to bring up a card that's a little played, and maybe support archetypes like Kelly in a Renfrey dominant meta still after all this time. It's actually kind of refreshing, so I like that change. Fortune Teller is really cool. This is a buff to Witchers if you're playing into like a Griffin Witcher, like I'll show you if I have to. I'm talking about the Griffin Witcher, right? So if we give it Veil, then it can kind of just keep going and going. So a direct buff to Witchers, but at the same time, it's actually just a buff to Gaunter, right? And Will-O-Wisp, destroy a doomed unit, so we can play into that whole thing. And that's not archetype specific, but right now, Doomed is not very good. I'm not going to type in Doomed because we're going to get like 100 cards, but, Gaunter, Will-O-Wisp is really cool for Fortune Teller. Just another creative way to destroy something with a backside of giving Veil, so we can sort of use it for like preventative things as well. I think it's really cool. Visigoda of Corvo is like an awesome card that's just not played unless it's taken off of Temple, which even then it's probably not your primary pick. I think something like this with Tridems is just a lot of fun. Something like this with Onager is a lot of fun. Just being able to use charges in Northern Realms apart from siege engines, I think would be again, a healthy balance for the game. This plays into the whole classic triple duel archetype quite a bit as well. So I feel like, put this behind Donimir of Troy and just have some fun with it. I miss those days of Gwent with old shield walls, so I'm all for that change. Just give it a little bit more of a ceiling, because right now it trades down to a skirmisher, it trades down to a circle of life, it trades down to pretty much anything. So, put it at 4, maybe it has a surviving chance. You rip a shield onto it from leader, now it's at 6, you gotta ping it, then kill it. There are a little bit more, just a little bit more security in that sort of thing. So, it's a little expensive right now, and maybe you'll see a bit more play at 4. It's not going to make the card overtuned, it's just going to help it a little bit more. Now, this part is not necessarily overly exciting, right? We have Self-Eater and Detlef and Sly Seductress. They're all getting reverts. So with the Self-Eater, it's just reverting the power from last patch because it was overtuned. With Detlef, again, the same thing applies because it's overtuned at 7. If you have 7 rip 2 leader charges, then you have basically 20 points plus the 7 off of 2 leaders in a Detlef. It's like the ultimate bleeding tool. I think 6 was more than fine. And honestly, ripping 2 leader charges does play it into Igni. No one's really playing Igni, but that's just something to consider, right? So, keeping it at 9 off the rip is actually pretty good just for security, but I think the card's just a little overtuned as it is right now. You guys decided, instead of putting Sly Seductress down to 5 provisions again, keep it at 4 for now, but make it 4 power as well. And the nice part about that is, it'll trade to a natural selection, an offering, a ping plus a skirmisher. It'll trade to a lot of just easy 4-point removal. And the ability to clone these, right? We're thinning them out really easy with Marquise. We have Igor the Hook, you have Mushy Truffle, you have Passiflora. There's so many different ways to make copies of this Megascope, of all things, right? Adarin, it's make them a little lower so that we don't have to go as crazy. I think personally, I probably would have done a provision revert, because one of the problems that we have is the Eventide Plunder. But again, that's not what you guys voted for this time around, so, that's just my take on it. Now, provision increase, we have Calvite. This is going to be one of those cards that ping-pongs a little bit. I know typically we see that with the Slave Driver and the Nausicaas and that sort of thing. I think right now they're back to their original forms, which is good, mostly. Let's see. I want to say Driver's at 6, though. So Driver's at 6, Nausicaa's at 6, which is fine. The powers are good. So, I mean, that's honestly like a healthy spot for it to be. I feel like Calvite at 12 is still playable. Nilfgaard actually surprisingly has some of the most ways to thin. You have Calvite, you have battle stations, you can play double battle stations, you've got obviously Metal being the tutor, you've got just all the thinning stuff that you could play in tactical decision. Like, they have a lot of ways to get out cards. Magni, Spying Dude at 6. I can just keep going with that, right? So, so many different ways to basically get cards out of the deck. I'm looking for the last one that I'm thinking about, Emir, right? Just, yeah, you don't need more. And, this is specific to tactics. All you have to do is downgrade 1 tactic. And it's all the same, right? You can keep the top end assimilate package and everything that you normally would, or if you're just playing sieges, you could do the same thing. But if he's at 12, we decide to keep it there. It's more than fine. Some Nilfgaard people will, obviously not be happy with that. If you have a better pick, do it. But this is kind of what you guys voted for as far as this poll goes. We have Temple. I think Temple at 17 is probably where it should stay. It's the most busted card in the game. You get a huge boost, right? You're basically pulling something at 9 power. Like 9 boost on top of whatever it is. Usually it's on Saius in this case, but you're creating 3 legendaries that are not in your starting deck, It's like you just basically got the full reign of Northern Realms cards, and you get to pick the best ones given the situation that you're dealt. And if you have Rune Mage, you get even more picks. So tell me that that's not busted. You're getting 3 cards at anywhere between 10 to 14 provision each, and we have people complaining that this is 16. It's 1 card. And you can argue, well, it's a 0 turn or point play. I mean, the Unsayas saves you regardless, and you get those cards for later. And Northern Realms has probably even more thinning options than Nilfgaard, believe it or not. So, I mean, It has to be in there. I would probably switch the priority of these, but again, that's how it is. I think Shiru has been seeing a lot of play in sort of like the top of the meta, maybe the top 500, top 200, top 100. You know what I mean? You can get very creative with getting Shiru to nuke the whole board, and putting Shiru at 12 will still see play, and I think it'll put it right where it needs to be, so that, you know, you're not just basically playing whatever in round 1, going into a round 2, hiding a Shiru, and just basically blowing up the whole board and 2-0ing. It's happened to me many times. I think at 12 it'll still happen to me, but you know, for now, I'm not upset with that at all. I think this section's a little more fun for the most part. We have Sabrina Inferno. I'm just going to hover here because a lot of you guys probably have never played this card before. So damage each non-spectre unit by 1. If any were destroyed, repeat this ability once. Unfortunately, this card will see 0 play, but with a buff it might, right? So we have it coming down maybe potentially to 7 provisions. You know, this is going to play into a curse deck. It's going to play into spell decks in general, right? If we're kind of leaning into revenant spells, I could see that being really cool, and it just gives us more to move with. You know, obviously it has a downside of potentially, you know, damaging your own stuff too. So it's just something you got to play around. It's something you got to think about, and you know, putting it to 7 is not that bad. In fact, it actually it's late, but Offering to the Sea, you know, is basically a way better version of this at 6. And even at 7, this was seeing a lot more play than this was. So just consider that for a bit, right? You play this in a deck too, Alchemy and Battle Trance, you get the heal properties off that ongoing when you play stuff. So, you know, that's at 6. We have this at 8. It's kind of the direct comparison. So there's that. Uma's Curse, I think putting it into Golden Necker range will create a lot more possibilities. It'll be very interesting to do, right? Especially because we have, again, we have like just better options with Land of 1,000 Fables now. You know, being able to tutor out cards, we can kind of go for it that way. You know, like this came into Golden Necker range. If this comes into Golden Necker range, that helps with creativity, but also just giving 1 extra provision here is a buff to a lot of different types of Shoop decks we can run into. So I'm all about that, because usually Shoop decks will run Rune Mage, and then you have this kind of going with it, and like I would imagine that that's a lot of fun. You know, it makes a little change to the dynamic of an Alzer deck as well, given that it's a provision change. So just something to think about with that. And lastly, this one's not as interesting, but I feel like Cleaver got hit with a double nerf, right? Cleaver's muscle went down to 6. This went up to 13. It's kind of a lot. Because this went back down, this should definitely not stay at 13, you know? How many people are you running to that are playing just a full Crimes deck with Vice? Not a whole lot. Like, really not a lot. Like, Bassi Crimes, I don't even think I played against it once this season. So having Cleaver here is kind of bad. And again, there's 1, 2, 3, potentially 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, there's like 7 or 8, 10 changes. Like, a good chunk of these changes have to do with just reverts, but there are some like really cool ones as well. So if you're not going to follow this exactly, sort of like look at the ones maybe that you find interesting and sort of pick those. I think our objective is just to try to get like a few of these through. I know that some will naturally happen because that's kind of what things are doing. You got people just voting in one way, over-tuning things. The general consensus is to fix that. So, you know, I'm just hoping to get a couple exciting things along the way. And that's pretty much it, man. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know what you think of the structure of how, you know, things are going. And I'm looking forward to the next season. I kind of ran out of ideas almost for this one, and I'll be posting a ton of deck guides when that starts. I mean, I still got a couple more before the end of the season, but, you know. Anyways, have a good night, guys. I'll see you very soon. Take it easy.